You're listening to the N2K Space Network.
What's the common denominator in security incidents? Escalations and lateral movement. When a privileged account is compromised, attackers can seize control of critical assets. With bad directory hygiene and years of technical debt, identity attack paths are easy targets for threat actors to exploit, but hard for defenders to detect. This poses risk in Active Directory, Entra ID, and hybrid configurations. Identity leaders are reducing such risks with attack path management. You can learn how attack path management is connecting identity and security teams while reducing risk with Bloodhound Enterprise, powered by SpecterOps. Head to specterops.io today to learn more. SpecterOps, see your attack paths the way adversaries do.
Today is May 8th, 2025. I'm Maria Varmazis, and this is T-Minus.
T-Minus 20 seconds to LOS Egress. Go for deploy. Roger, roll.
Rheinmetall and satellite manufacturer ICEYE to establish a joint venture for satellite production.
4.
Aerospace has completed a successful demonstration of the company's resilient GPS technology for the U.S. Space Force.
3.
The Office of Space Commerce's Traffic Coordination System for Space is expanding its cooperative research and development agreement with SpaceX.
2.
IonQ plans to launch a global space-to-space and space-to-ground satellite quantum key distribution network.
1.
Interlude announces contracts with the U.S. Department of Energy and Maybell Quantum and unveils the first prototype of their excavator.
0.
Our guest today is Joe Schurman, Principal Aerospace and Defense Sector AI Leader and U.S. Space Program Leader at PwC. PwC recently released their Next in Space 2025 report, and we'll be diving into some of the insights later in the show. Happy Thursday, everybody. There's been a fair bit of skepticism around the company Interlune, which plans to mine helium-3 on the moon. But whether or not you're sold on the whole premise or the promising energy source, the company has signed on with big customers and has unveiled their full-scale prototype excavator. The U.S. Department of Energy Isotope Program has agreed to purchase 3 liters of helium-3 from Interlune. Helium-3 is a potential energy source, particularly for nuclear fusion, and has various applications in science and technology. It's a stable isotope of helium and is extremely scarce on Earth, but abundant on the moon. Interlune plans to harvest it from the moon for the DOE and then deliver it to Earth at approximately today's commercial market price. They say delivery will be no later than April 2029. And the DOE is not their only customer. Quantum infrastructure company Maybell Quantum has agreed to purchase thousands of liters of helium-3 for yearly delivery from 2029 to 2035. The helium-3 will be used in Maybell's dilution refrigerators, which cool quantum devices to near absolute zero temperatures. Corman Tillerman-Dick, founder and CEO of Maybell Quantum, says in the coming years we'll go from a few hundred quantum computers worldwide to thousands, then tens of thousands, and they all need to get cold. To get cold, they need dilution refrigeration running on helium-3. So, Interlune has worked with industrial equipment manufacturer Vermeer Corporation on a prototype excavator. The newly unveiled machine is designed to ingest 100 metric tons of lunar regolith per hour and return it to the surface in a continuous motion. Excavation is the first in a 4-step proprietary system to harvest natural resources from space. The steps are excavate, sort, extract, and separate. No details were shared about when the final excavator will be ready for its first lunar mission. IonQ plans to launch a global space-to-space and space-to-ground satellite quantum key distribution network. To facilitate development of this network, IonQ has signed a definitive agreement to acquire Capella Space Corporation. IonQ says the acquisition will expand the company's quantum computing partnerships with United States top-secret agencies. The transaction is expected to close in the second half of 2025, subject to the satisfaction of customary closing conditions, including the receipt of regulatory approvals. The Office of Space Commerce's Traffic Coordination System for Space, also known as TraCSS, is expanding its cooperative research and development agreement with SpaceX. In addition to the original agreement, announced in January 2024, this new amendment incorporates launch collision avoidance screenings into ongoing work on advanced screening techniques. Additionally, TraCSS is working to onboard SpaceX as a beta user in preparation for the system's production launch in January 2026. Aerospace has completed the successful demonstration of the company's Resilient GPS, or RGPS, technology for the U.S. Space Force. This was the third milestone in the mission, and Aerospace demonstrated an early integration of the RGPS satellite technology through flat-sat flight software and hardware subsystem testing, in addition to successful communication with ground software. Aerospace was awarded a Quick Start RGPS contract by the Space Systems Command in September to produce design concepts for smaller, more cost-effective GPS satellites. This new achievement comes only 6 months after the start of that program. Rheinmetall and satellite manufacturer ICEYE are establishing a joint venture for satellite production. The new joint venture will be called Rheinmetall ICEYE Space Solutions and will operate as part of a Rheinmetall space cluster in Germany. Rheinmetall ICEYE Space Solutions plans to manufacture satellites, starting with synthetic aperture radar. Production is set to take place at the Neuss site, among others, and is scheduled to begin in the second quarter of 2026. The partnership announcement comes as ICEYE expands its global footprint with the launch of a new research and development and manufacturing center in Valencia, Spain. The new center is the company's second largest R&D hub, and ICEYE says it'll drive innovation in the company's pipeline researching, developing, and manufacturing SAR-based and future multi-sensor technologies and solutions for persistent Earth observation. That concludes today's intelligence briefing. N2K senior producer Alice Cruz is joining us now with some additional stories that didn't make today's top 5. Alice?
Maria, we have 2 additional links in today's selected reading section for you to go and read up on. The first is an announcement that Dave Gallagher will be taking over as director at JPL, and the other is on a delayed launch of India's first Gaganyaan astronaut.
Well, that's not a huge surprise, but when can we expect that launch now?
They say no sooner than 2027, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gets pushed again. Space is hard, don't you know? Anyway, those links, along with links to further reading on all the stories mentioned throughout the show, can always be found on our website, space.n2k.com. Just click on today's episode title.
Hey, T-Minus crew, if your business is looking to grow your voice in the industry, expand the reach of your thought leadership, or recruit talent, T-Minus can help. We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at space@n2k.com or send us a note through our website so we can connect about building a program to meet your goals.
And now a word from our sponsor, SpyCloud. Identity is the new battleground, and attackers are exploiting stolen identities to infiltrate your organization. Traditional defenses can't keep up. SpyCloud's holistic identity threat protection helps security teams uncover and automatically remediate hidden exposures across your users, from breaches, malware, and phishing to neutralize identity-based threats like account takeover, fraud, and ransomware. Don't let invisible threats compromise your business. Get your free corporate darknet exposure report at spycloud.com/cyberwire and see what attackers already know. That's spycloud.com/cyberwire.
Today's guest is Joe Schurman, Principal Aerospace and Defense Sector AI Leader and U.S. Space Program Leader at PwC. I caught up with Joe at the Space Symposium after PwC released their Next in Space 2025 report.
My name is Joe Schurman. I'm partner here at PwC. I lead our AI services for the aerospace and defense sector of the firm. I'm a co-leader of our space program. So our recent white paper, our recent research that we just published is the Next in Space white paper. And that was to cover both the economic impact as well as trends in space that we're seeing and our specific points of view and where we see a lot of value. We don't have a public sector business. So we only focus on the commercial market. And we have a very strong point of view with where space is headed from a commercialization perspective. And some of the work that I've done personally in this space and that we're doing in this space is assisting with AI integration. And I know that's the buzzword, and generative AI is just everywhere, right?
Right, but for good reason. Yeah. I mean, that the applications in the space industry are massive and game-changing, and I mean, it is buzz, but it's also valid.
But if you think about where this needs to go, we don't have the frequency of launches that we need to get the capacity of workloads and payloads that we need to into space, and that's usually because of long cycles to get to launch. Engineering of aircraft, spacecraft, satellites, individual components takes years in some cases. And some of the projects that I've been on in this sector specifically, I walk in and I notice that brilliant engineers, aerospace engineers are some of the most brilliant people I've ever worked with, but they're still kind of processing technology in a manual way. And so these processes are taking so long, and you have aircraft, spacecraft, and satellite, on ground for 3 months, 6 months, or even years, in length. And so we're not getting to the point where we can really commercialize space just yet. It's still heavily, run in control or domain by government or military. And so that's where we want to be. We want to be in that position where we're helping the smaller company become ready to be acquired or go IPO or public for their organization to offer their services in the space marketplace. We want to be there for the larger companies to be able to streamline aerospace engineering processes, program management, to get to a point where there's actually a space global marketplace.
Given all that where you all are in the market and who you are working with and what you are seeing, you had mentioned that you all have like a strong point of view on what's going on in commercial space. That I would love to hear about that, especially from the report that you all mentioned, the Next in Space, because I mean everybody's got their crystal ball about what we think is coming, but it's always very interesting to hear the perspectives that different organizations bring to bear. So one area that I'm always very interested in, and I know is a huge hot topic in our industry, is workforce development. Any insights on that you all can share? Yeah,
well, in that topic, and first of all, it's a great point, excellent topic. So in that specific point of view, or in that specific category, I was mentioning streamlining aerospace engineering and program management, but that's just like, one or two, pieces of the pie, right? It's the overall back office. It's the streamlining of overall operations, period. My point of view is, a lot of these organizations, because of regulation, have not been able to adopt generative AI capabilities or any type of adjacent automation type service, because you have ITAR controls, export control, ITAR regulations, export controls. Even individuals working on these projects, all have to be U.S. person, right? And so for the past 5-6 years, where cloud and AI and then generative AI services have been released, I'm watching all my buddies and my colleagues have all this fun with all the technology, with all their commercial non-space and aerospace defense clients, really building out some really cool use cases and really helping the workforce be more enabled, right? And part of that is creating an agentic AI approach where you have individual operation teams or specific line of business units and individuals that are paired up with like a Gen AI copilot or some sort of capability that enhances their ability to move faster and be more educated and get to an answer faster, right? We want to do the same thing in the space sector, and these regulations, hopefully, that are being released or removed or at least lowered, is going to lower the barrier to entry. And you've seen that this is the biggest year of AI in space personally, because last year There was a vendor, Microsoft came out with the only solution for artificial intelligence in a government cloud environment. And that happened in June of last year. And so a lot of customers flocked to that because it was the first and only solution. Now, multiple vendors have that capability. And as of January 28th, and I've held multiple AI roundtables around these events and launches. I held one back in late January, and ChatGPT Government was announced, or their version of Skinny GPT, if you will, is a containerized version of ChatGPT Enterprise that can be enabled for government and aerospace and defense clients. These are the things that have to continue to occur to help the workforce and enable the workforce to drive, bigger, stronger, faster. But outside of AI overall, if you think about the community, the economy, overall, these new commercial contracts are going to drive more jobs, more opportunities in local, communities, and go beyond the typical stream of defense industrial base to the typical controlled aerospace and defense contractors.
Yeah, I mean it's been really fascinating, sort of being a fly on the wall for a lot of conversations about the adjacent industries that space is looking at, where the synergies make a lot of sense. Energy has come up a lot. I mean, it makes so much sense there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just been the opportunities there are massive, and it's just been encouraging hearing the redoubled efforts that people are making on that.
And that the specific categories of business that are popping up, I mean, they range from like far-fetched ideas, but they're real, really happening. Yeah. Like the reflectors, on a highway system. There's millions of those, right, that are created. And one of my colleagues and friends came up with this concept. There's going to be a space reflector business out there as we build the highway in space. And all these types of companies that are out there. And me personally, this is a real thing. It's called space trucking. I'm really personally interested in space trucking just because I'm, Big Trouble in Little China fan with Kurt. I'm imagining Kurt Russell driving a space-based 18-wheeler. But but that's a real thing. Like you got cislunar, you've got between planet, you've got space station, items that are going to be quartered around, right?
Yeah, space logistics. It's for real.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yep.
And it's going to open up new opportunities in the commercial market that are non-military, defense contractor. And so it's really kind of awesome to really see the proliferation of these opportunities vastly becoming available.
And I'm going to shorthand you a little bit as like an AI guy. I'm sorry if that's
fine.
Reductive.
They call me AI Joe, by the way.
AI Joe? Yeah, oh, no way.
It's really sad.
Oh, my God. Do they have a little green figure?
My daughter actually created a G.I. Joe cartoon image with me holding a laptop on the moon. It's pretty pathetic.
I love that. I'm sorry. That's great. Right. AI Joe.
No.
As someone with expertise in AI, and as you're looking around and just seeing, for lack of a better term, the future that is now, right. The capabilities that I think even just a few years ago, which were just sort of purely aspirational, that now with AI are becoming very, very real.
Right.
And I'm thinking of autonomy and autonomous navigation and that kind of thing, especially where it's just breakneck. I mean, I would love to just get your thoughts on where that is going, maybe timelines that you think might be realistic for that kind of thing and its development. Just your thoughts.
It is happening now. It's been happening.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Actually, starting back in 2019, I was on a special team working with the Pentagon and other military, agencies on remote sensing.
Yeah. Yep.
And so we were building computer vision models to look at these individual sensors and, cameras and images, et cetera, to break down the data and build AI-based knowledge graphs to kind of piece everything together. That was happening 6 years ago,
yeah,
right?
So it's not manual, right?
So nowadays, I've got clients right now in space transport, as an example, that are they're doing it right now, that are building data centers in orbit because there's specific and special applications of agricultural, pharmaceutical, just kind of cross-industry capabilities that they want to run specific workloads in a data center, on a satellite, in a space station, or on a specific location like Mars or the moon. These things are happening right this second. And if you tie that back to the commercialization of space and where we fit into, like we have clients that are agricultural, dominant clients, right? Or we have relationships with the large pharmaceuticals. And so these individual companies are buying and renting space, no pun intended, but renting space in a data center in space and gathering the results and transmitting data, not just to Earth, but long-term between orbital devices.
Yeah, like computing at the edge, right?
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the edge, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just sorry for sounding very Pollyanna about it, but it's just amazing to me.
It is.
That it's happening.
The things that we thought were possible as kids are now actually occurring.
It's actually
right
happening.
now.
It just always blows my mind. Since the topic that brings us together is next in space, I just want to is there anything that maybe you want to make sure that you flag as this is something to keep an eye on?
I would say we have a pretty strong point of view in the launch area where if you can't beat them, join them, right? And there's some very vertically integrated, self-sustaining launch providers that are out there. And it's very difficult to compete with that, even at a cost structure, or because they're so vertically integrated. They have everything, the materials, the staff, the launch facilities, et cetera. I would say that more commercial organizations should subscribe to and partner more with those types of organizations so that they can launch more frequently instead of spending an additional 5, 10, 15 years of building their own facilities. Let's get things to space. Let's get payloads and workloads to space, right? And I also think that if we increase that network capacity and kind of rely on what's already vertically integrated and cost efficient, then we will get to a faster commercialization effort in the space community and economy.
We will be right back.
Traditional pen testing is resource-intensive, slow, and expensive, providing only a point-in-time snapshot of your application's security, leaving it vulnerable between development cycles. Automated scanners alone are unreliable in detecting faults within application logic and critical vulnerabilities. Outpost 24's continuous pen testing as a service solution offers year-round protection, with recurring manual penetration testing conducted by CREST-certified pen testers, allowing you to stay ahead of threats and ensure your web applications are always secure.
Welcome back. 2 short items for you for today's final story. One's a take-backsies from NASA about the Viper lunar rover. The nearly completed rover that maybe wasn't going to be a NASA thing anymore and going to this commercial sector instead is maybe now going to be a NASA thing again. The U.S. Space Agency put out a terse update that they're canceling its partnership proposal solicitation and instead, and I quote, opting to explore alternative approaches to deliver its Viper rover to the moon. Okay, well, let's cut NASA a break. I suppose it is a turbulent time over there right now. Interesting development, though. Second item up for you is also moon-related, but this one is from China. The nation has made the world's first daytime laser ranging measurement from the Earth to the moon. The Chinese Academy of Sciences bounced an infrared laser off of a retroreflector on the Tiandu lunar orbiter. Now, lunar retroreflectors help us locate on-the-moon missions with precision and get precise measurements of the distance between the Earth and the moon, because while it is a great distance, it does vary quite a bit, and those variances matter. Those retroreflectors, by the way, are also a great way to prove those lunar landing conspiracy theories very wrong. Humanity's been to the moon, and let's bounce a laser off a thing we put there just to show you. But the moon is far away, and that bounced laser ping, or I guess it's really the pong, is pretty weak on its way back, and normally we try to do this kind of maneuver at night when solar interference is minimized. But this was a world's first as it was done during the day, so to heck with the sun's interference. So nicely done, and congratulations to China on this very neat accomplishment. That's it for T-Minus for May 8th, 2025, brought to you by N2K Cyberwire. For additional resources from today's report, check out our show notes at space.n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K and podcasts like T-Minus are part of the daily routine of many of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K senior producer is Alice Carruth. Our producer is Liz Stokes. We are mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester, with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Peter Kilpie is our publisher, and I'm your host, Maria Varmazis. Thanks for listening. I'll see you tomorrow.
T-minus.
And now, a word from our sponsor, Black Kite. If third-party risk is keeping you up at night, you're not alone. It's a constant battle. Black Kite's third-party cyber risk platform is built on real-world threat intelligence, straight from their research team's ongoing breach analysis, dark web monitoring, and attacker tactics. That means you get a hacker's eye view of your supply chain to proactively spot risks. And speaking of research, they just dropped their 2025 third-party breach report, breaking down last year's biggest trends and what's coming next. Grab the report now at www.blackkite.com.